Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food. No matter what you're craving, from 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week, all season long. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome back to Rams Up, your favorite LA Rams podcast. We are part of the Fans First Sports Network. You can follow us on our YouTube channel as well, at LA Rams Up. I'm your host, Mark. I'll be joined occasionally by my football gurus, Paul and Ian. Let's get to it. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Roundtable number 54. Hard to believe. We got Ian and Paul on board. We are going to talk a little bit about this Packers game. We are going to talk about some of the management, or shall I say mismanagement, that has occurred by Rams, thanks to Rams leadership. Give out some grades on various things. But Ian, first, let's rehash this Packer game real quickly. I know you had your orchestrated Rams video out highlighting some plays. So you did some film studies. Anything you learned from that you want to share with us?
Yeah, gentlemen, I guess my final thoughts on this Rams versus Packers game is, damn it, a couple mistakes here and there just really screwed this team. And it just seems to be that is the formula of how they've been losing. Yes, the Arizona Cardinal game was the outlier of it getting pretty out of hand, right? But just like the Bears game, just like the Lions game, a miscue here, a miscue there led to this loss. And it's just so frustrating because you see them be able to make some plays, make some critical stops. Was it perfect? No. And yes, we are very undermanned. And I'm still in the camp of, I don't give a damn who is out, figure it out and get a W. So to see those little things pop up, a bad play here, a bad play there, was just really, really irritating for a second week in a row watching film and just seeing the miscues that cost this team a W, who, again, I get it, they're undermanned, but they are good enough to be 3 and something right now, at least, right? But Paul, what are your quick final thoughts on this game? Shoot.
Yeah, the same. They're playing from behind way too much. About, I would say, anywhere from about 75 to 80% of the game they're playing from behind, and that's a major issue. The slow starts. We'll jump into some of the stats later on, but the bottom line is, if you watch the game, to any observer, the slow starts, they're playing from behind, and it's just too much to overcome. To their credit, the margin of loss is not as extensive as I thought. It's not even double digits. It shows you that they're keeping themselves competitive, but they're just putting themselves behind the 8 ball. There's just too many mental errors. And, I think Aaron Kyren said it best. He said, we just, we haven't been beat. We've been beating ourselves. So I think that's a nice way to put it. In the NFL, it's one thing to believe you can win. The other thing is you have to play like that. And they have the first part. They definitely have the confidence. They believe they can win. They're just not playing that way.
Yeah. What about you, Mark? Any final thoughts you'd like to share after, soaking it in for a couple of days and
I'm waiting for a moment, and we had a couple of those against the 49ers. We got our only win. You're waiting for that moment where this team kind of turns it around and figures out how to win, get some breaks, and that pick six, I thought that was the moment. I thought that was it, and I was wrong. But, I want to focus on the positive here, and if we acknowledge that it's 3 or 4 mistakes that are leading to these losses, the Rams, they really did for much of the game outplay the Bears. They really did for much of the game outplay the Packers. They got some stops. They moved the ball. And then, they moved the ball on the ground, with Kyron. And then, like I say, a couple of mistakes. So I'm still hopeful. Maybe it's not going to happen for this year. Uh, but I'm not totally giving up hope on this team. They could still go on a run. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And by the way, I love you guys sharing your Dodger colors, your LA colors, as the Dodgers are playing in the background here. If I had a Dodger hat, which I don't anymore, shame on me, I'd be wearing one too, for the record.
42
Well,
forever, baby. 42.
Yeah, look it, man. We bleed blue here, as I'm sure everyone is aware of by now. Whether it be Rams blue, Dodger blue, and it's a playoff game for the city of LA. It was a rough Sunday after that Rams game, and then the Dodgers having a bad loss too. So whatever's got to bring the morale and the spirit higher, we're gonna do it. So shout out to all the Dodger Rams fans out there that are also watching the playoff tournament go on too.
Did you want to get into something else you want to talk about with as far as the Packers, or did you want to get into our? You wanted to talk about our kudos and throw out some criticism to some individual players. Is that where you're going next?
Yeah, correct. So when we have a loss, we try to be positive, find a player that played positive or had some good moments, and then we do like to highlight a player that did not have many good moments, which is probably a reason why the loss happened. So I'll go first. Who was my positive player, gentlemen? And for me, and I was critical of him last time, Rams Nation, we got together on the round table, but no doubt about it, for me, it's the rookie Jordan Whittington. I thought last week he had 2 critical blocking errors that led to serious negative yardage and a turnover in that Rams-Bears game in Chicago. He had a whiffed block when he was trying to help Parkinson, just didn't give any good effort at all, and that led to the strip sack. And then he had a bad block where he double teamed with Robinson on the screen, where if he would have went and blocked the corner, Kyron would have got a Ferguson, continued the drive late in the fourth quarter. So he was my negative player last week. This week, no doubt about it, my positive player. Insane catches, looked great run after the catch, and then he had some A-plus blocks. I mean, guys, Rams Nation, gentlemen, it's insane how the Rams continue to find receivers who block like fullbacks. It's really remarkable. Jordan Whittington is that type of player. He can block just like Robert Woods, just like Nakua, just like Kupp. Is it refined? No, he's a rookie, and I assume this is going to get much better as the years go on with us. But man, oh man, I mean, he's lead blocking on Kyron's goal line touchdown. Isolation duo, like a fullback. He's taking on linebackers, clearing them out, or at least stifling them. They're not penetrating, and it's really remarkable. I mean, too bad he wasn't out there for that final couple plays there in the fourth quarter, because he, as of right now with Nakua and Kupp hurt, he is our go-to receiver. No doubt about it. So he's my positive player, everybody. And Mark, who's your positive player?
Well, if you watch Kyron Williams in this game and you don't appreciate what he can get done in short yardage areas, short yardage plays, as well as just an overall great running back. I know he had the fumble. It was a crusher too, horrible. If he hangs onto that ball, a good chance we win this game. But that aside, running backs are going to fumble on occasion, and maybe he's fumbling a little bit more than we like over the course of his career. But man, he is an incredible running back, especially in those short yardage situations where there were several plays where we needed 1 and it looked like he was going to get -3, but he found a way, just wiggles, little jump cuts, finds the hole, great vision. And he's my positive player. And I understand the fumble was a crusher, but I'm still giving him my game ball.
Right on. I mean, he was awesome. I mean, he's carrying this team, him and Matthew Stafford. It's really remarkable. But Paul, who is your positive player for this game if you have one?
Cue the music, baby. I went with the conductor, man. In the black void that is our defense for that dude. Man, he came up huge. 2 sacks, 2 TFL, 2 quarterback hits, 6 tackles, played the run as well as the pass. Rallying the troops for that last stand, right, to give it back to the offense. He did everything you would expect from a team leader, and for in only his second season. So, and he really stood out for me. I mean, the fact that we have 3 different positive players just shows that there's a lot of talent on this team, from Iron Kyren and Jay Witt with those clutch catches. And Iron Kyren, you talk about the vision, a lot of those short yardage runs, he did it on his own, and then the big dog, the conductor, came through big. So I'm going to go with the conductor. He spoke loud in this game. Spoke loud.
So what next, Ian? You want to go negative players, as painful as it's going to be?
Yeah, and we have to. In a loss, there is bad, and it's our job to point out to everybody out there who that was. And my negative player, and again, all of our negative players every week, that if we do have any more future losses, they're probably going to happen, everybody. This is not anything for character issues, or we don't like the dude because of whatever. This is strictly on the field play. Let's just get that out of the way first, so everyone understands. But my negative player for this game is, no doubt about it, Christian Roseboom. And again, we saw him play good ball last year when he was in spots with Ernest Jones. Sincerely, we're film junkies here on the Rams Up podcast, and no doubt about it, he was a solid inside linebacker last season when he was on the field, a couple downs here or there. But this season, after the Detroit game, him and Troy Reader, I mean, I can probably add Troy Reader into this group as well. But Roseboom, too many missed tackles, looked lost trying to fill gaps. He was slow to react to run plays where he was running into traffic and getting himself blocked, not pursuing the best. I mean, not that he wasn't trying, but it just looked slow. Too many missed tackles. And the Rams are probably starting to see that as in the game. And Paul, you beautifully called this out, by the way, which I thought they were not going to do. Going to have the 3 outside linebacker looks and take out Troy Reader and Roseboom. So I was combining the names there. And I didn't think they were going to do it. I didn't think they were going to yank them out and have Byron, Hoyt, and Verse out there instead. And they did do that. And it was so much better on pass coverage situations than having, unfortunately, Roseboom and Reader out there. But Roseboom's my negative player. It was just another bad day at the office for the inside linebacker group and him specifically. And gosh, if they're going to be out there in the future, I hope it improves. But, we'll get to all that fun stuff after, I guess. So, Mark, who is your negative player for this game if you do end up having one?
Well, I did, and I'm being, I hate to say it, but this wasn't Matthew Stafford's best game. It really wasn't, and we expect so much out of him. And you know what? I really feel bad even calling him out, because without him, we're going nowhere. But if he had played one of his better games, we probably win this game. But he was just a little bit off, I think. It wasn't necessarily a bad game. It's just not what we hope to get from our star quarterback. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it was a tough day at the office. No doubt about it. He was forcing passes. The pressure was getting to him. It definitely looked like he was in that I got to save the day mode, which is where bad throws happen and bad stuff. But unfortunate. It's going to happen. Not every quarterback's going to be Dan Marino, where he's great for 15 weeks straight, And no, I get it. But Paul, who is your negative player for this week, if you do have one?
Yeah, Parkinson and Tutu were neck and neck. But Tutu edged him out by his play, so I had to go with Tutu for a couple of reasons. So you shouted out Jay Witt. You watch these players like Iron Kyren and Jay Witt, and they are just laying it out there on every play. They're giving it everything they got, right? And then you watch certain players run out of bounds on a regular basis, jump on the ground before they're tackled, and that's why Tutu gets the nod in this case. And the Rams really needed him. They were thin at wide receiver. They have been featuring him the best they can, and he has not generated those splash plays that were his signature sort of his calling card in college. I mean, he led the nation in splash plays his senior year, right? That's why they drafted him. And it just has not come to fruition with the Rams. And unfortunately, a lot of that is effort. It really is. He makes no attempt to break tackles, and it cost the Rams. It cost them on the 2-point conversion. A lot of the routes, he's late out of the breaks, and that's why Stafford has to look to someone else. So, unfortunately, it's going to have to go to Tutu. It really hurt the Rams. When you go back and watch the film, especially on a lot of those rub plays. I was talking to Mark before we logged on, especially that last play of the game was a rub play. Parkinson ran a terrible route, but they were running those setups all game. And he and Parkinson were late out of their breaks on probably 80% of the routes. And that's why Stafford's balls looked like they were high or all over the place, because there was just no timing. It wasn't synced up. So Tutu is my call on this one.
Yeah, unfortunate. I mean, and I want to say this. He was 100% held on that 4th down play where he was running that deep drag route. No doubt about it. And that was just another bad missed call by the refs, and we should have continued. I know the pass was incomplete because Stafford had to get into that, but that's where Tutu's value is, and unfortunately that value didn't pop up, so here we are, and he's on our negative list, unfortunately. And man, gentlemen, any final closing thoughts on this game before we have to move on, just like the players and the coaching staffs? What about you, Mark? Any last minute thoughts here? I
just want to put it in a rearview mirror. My special assistant was telling me, as you know, I had to hit a wedding in the second half, and I took some views of the game. I said, "Did you go back and look? Did you go back and look at this?" I said, "I don't want to. I don't want to," and I didn't. So okay. I'm done with the Rams Packers games.
Yeah.
On to the bye week, the Dodgers Padres, and hopefully the Dodgers Mets, and then bring on the Raiders.
Yeah. What about you, Paul? Any last quick thoughts?
They were right there. They had the game, just too many unforced errors, and it cost them. They just got to play better, and they need, apart from their star players, they need that second tier level of player to really step up, and that's where the big void has been.
Yeah. And my quick final thoughts, everybody, is hopefully we see more position changes. Hopefully we see more people getting switched out of the lineup, as we've highlighted many players throughout the weeks who have been on the negative side or have played poorly. And they already did Trey White, and they paid him a good amount of money, but they don't care. And that's what it's got to be, right? No matter what you paid somebody, if they're not performing, got to yank them and get somebody else in there. So based on this game, I hope we continue to see those type of moves happen.
And wouldn't that, you expect that to happen? And you'd expect that to happen during the bye week, right? That's when they might make a change at. Maybe we'll see Omar Spates against the Raiders. Who knows?
Hey, well, I wouldn't be opposed to that at this point. 1-4, and
you might see that on one of our slides.
Yeah, 1-4, everybody. Not even Jeff Fisher's first year and last year in LA went that bad early. Obviously, it was 3-1, and everything fell off after that. But at least there was hope in the beginning. This, we're starting out very, very bleak, and hopefully, this coaching staff has the potential to change it around. Will they do it? We shall see. But onward we move, just like the players and the organization and the coaching staff has to, because if we don't, we'll go crazy just as much as they would. Right, gentlemen? Rams Nation, shoot.
Change takes courage. And right now, this coaching staff has to be honest. They have to look in the mirror. I mean, this is not just all the players. The players that contributed last year that now that have taken a sudden dip, that can't be the players, right? It can't be every single player. They have to look at the scheme. They have to have the courage to make the revisions. They also have the courage to play the players that are showing that they deserve to be out there. So bottom line is, if they're going to run into an issue because you bench T. White, you better hold everybody else accountable. So they took Reeder off the field. They took Rosenboom off the field. These are not players that can play every down. So if you can get them into a rotation, but 66% of the game, you're going to see a huge improvement. The question becomes, who's filling that 33%? That's the issue moving forward. And there are players on this roster that deserve a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they can't figure out a way to beat the Raiders after the bye week at home, I'll be really disappointed. Gotta
Yeah, we
figure
haven't
it
hit
out.
rock bottom yet. I mean, that's a week and some change away if everyone's freaking out right now.
Yeah.
But we'll get there when we get there, I suppose, huh?
Yeah. What's
But
next?
well, with there being no game this week, and it's coming at the right time. When when we were first going over the schedule way back when it got released, we're all like, bye week this early? Terrible. The NFL screwed us. Yada yada. Yeah, remember we were saying all those things, and majority of
Right.
Rams Nation out there felt the same way. Well, the football gods, I guess, future blessed us with this being the thing, and because there is no game, everybody, we're gonna be giving out some bye week report cards to everybody, report card grades for player acquisitions, whether it be free agents or trades, coaching hires, and then the rookies. So instead of keys to the game like we normally would in the second half of these episodes, we thought, let's see where all the new guys are at through this bye week. And well, I'm sure you guessed it. There are going to be some grades that you're like, that makes sense. And some others you're like, I don't know about that, but we'll get into it, right?
You want to do that now? Let's see. I got probably the first thing Paul wanted to do was talk
Yeah.
about, just take a bigger view of where they are right now and areas of disappointment, I guess we could call it. You want to walk us through this real quick, Paul?
hmm
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times the stats don't really tell the true tale of the tape, but in this case, I think it really does. And there's a lot of discussion out there, but sometimes you need to separate the reality from the perception. And the bottom line is, if you take a look at a body of work, it's not impressive as a whole on both sides of the ball. So, of course, the record 1-4, which clearly, if you look at, we've talked about, you watch the games, you sometimes are puzzled. How do we wind up 1-4, right? Those peaks and valleys eventually will catch up to you. If you look on the offensive side of it, we're 24th in points scored. Even with Iron Kyron blowing it up a couple of games, we're still 25th on the ground game. And I think that to me is the really, really important stat. That has to change. We have to be in the top 10 of rushing. They spent money on guards. We have a solid O-line, across the board. Bo Limmer has really honestly saved the season for the Rams. So in the interim, we have 5 solid guys. I mean, Logan Bruss had a rough game, but at least they have 5 cohesive guys that they could throw out there. So this really has to change. Total yards is at 16th. So if you do the math, our passing game is 9th in the league. So we're churning out passing yards, but we're not scoring points, and that's our next telltale stat. Look at that, right? The offensive points scored is 24th. The points against, 29th, right? So we're bottom of the league, points against, rushing yards against, total yards against. So we're getting gashed on, in the air and on the ground. And, the defense is just on the field too long, and it's really wearing them down. And it also doesn't allow the offense to get in a rhythm because they're sitting for such a long time. And that's a big, big part of it. So when we talk about this complementary football, these stats really tell the tale of the tape. It has been a disappointing season on both sides of the ball. And the Rams really have to find a way to turn this around, because at this point, if you look at these numbers, that record makes sense. Now that 1-4 really makes sense.
Yeah. Hey, let me jump back to the Packer game. I said we didn't want to talk about it anymore, but Ian, I think we were texting each other about this Pro Football Focus grade for Logan Bruss and his pass blocking. You looked at some of the tape. What are they talking about? I'm sure he had a bad day, but was it that bad?
It was pretty bad. Now, what was the grade? It was zero or something.
Zero. Yeah, the
There was a
same as
lot of
me.
bad
I
reps.
I got a 0.
And again, PFF, everyone, real quick, the grade on what type of play you're running, and then the situation that play is being ran in. So is it a critical down where you're one-on-one blocking? Are you helping somebody block? All those crazy factors that make everything very nuanced and unique every play. They take all that into consideration. That's how they come up with the grade. So based on all the unique situations Bruss was in, or any player that's any of these grades, they were like, yeah, he was just crappy all day long. And it was a lot of bad moments, and it's unfortunate, really unfortunate. I know didn't want to talk about the Packer game, but it is worth mentioning. It is worth mentioning. And
Yeah, no, I think it tied into the stat here that we're seeing about the rushing yards. We do have and the offense in total if an offensive lineman's struggling that much. But yeah, really
On
telling
five,
stats here.
yeah,
Pardon?
on five of the seven pressures that he was credited with giving up, five of them he was beat on one-on-ones. So that means he
Yeah.
got beat clean. So that was like two of them were, helping on stunts, and that, but five of them were where he was head up with somebody, and that player just beat him off the line. So,
Yeah.
and that was one of them was the last play of the game.
Yeah, and it seems like I'd like to see, maybe next time we'll talk about it. I've sensed that the Rams have been giving up splash plays at a very high rate as well, which obviously is going to get reflected here on the defensive stats. Seems like every game, teams are just one or two wide receivers are just making big plays against us, and sometimes it's a running play as well. And I heard Sean McVay. I think it was Sean McVay talking before the season. The two of the biggest things you have to get done is create splash plays and prevent them. And we failed in both regards. I mean, up until the Packer game, our longest run was 14 yards. Kyron, I think, had a 30-yarder in this one. So yeah, it makes it very difficult to come out ahead on these stats when you're giving up splash plays and not creating them either. Hey, let's move.
That's exactly right. And that's what those efficiency ratings are. When you see those efficiency ratings, Ram Nation, that's what it's really telling you. So if you're not creating splash plays, that means you're holding the ball onto the ball longer, but you then have to play a much more efficient game of football. You can't have those mistakes, you can't have those penalties, and you definitely can't have turnovers.
And there's some more stats for you, a lot of data there for you. We'll let you all just digest that for a second, but a lot of alarming data points here. Paul, you put this together. Anything you want to highlight here?
Yeah, so I mean, Ian, it was a perfect segue before talking about the three outside linebacker. Sometimes you have to look at the roster and see, you can't always plan it out. You try, I'm sure the Rams tried, but you have to look at your roster and what you have. And their pass rush was coming from primarily two down linemen, but three linebackers, so it made sense. Interestingly enough, the Rams did use that alignment once for an entire season when Fritz Shermer was here many years ago. So it's not far into the Rams. It's interesting, and the more things change, the more they stay the same. So the first thing that I really wanted to highlight was if you take a look at their pass rush, right? They're 25th in sacks, but they're deep. When you isolate their non-blitz situations, when you focus on when they're just coming with four non-blitz situations, their D-line pressure rate is last. Now, that's basically telling you this is really the AD 99 effect, right? When they came with four in previous seasons, Donald was drawing doubles and triples. So yeah, it looked like a fantastic pass rush. Now teams have the luxury of doubling fist factor, doubling conductor, or whatever they're doing, and it's resulting in that they're not getting a lot of push out of the four, right?
Now, but so I'm pretty sure now Versa's pressure rate is really good though, right?
Right, but when you focus on solely their D linemen, they're dead last.
So outside of the edge, just the interior
so
guys.
When you take a look at, so if you think about it this way, if we took conductor and Fisk out of the equation, which D lineman is pressuring the passer? That's the issue. Fisk and conductor can't come off the field. You won't get any pass ruch.
So you're saying what you're basically saying is our pressure is coming from Verse and Young, and that's about it.
Outside backers.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at the next stat. Then. Does that make sense to you? If we got the lowest blitz percentage in the NFL, let's take a look at it. Our D line has accounted for 3 sacks. Linebackers and D backs have accounted for 5. Right. So we have the lowest blitz percentage in the NFL, which means we're going with the 4. But they're just not getting home. And a lot of that is based on what we've been talking about. We've been watching the 4, and they really haven't been able to effectively get to the quarterback. Cover 6 percentage, we lead the NFL in the cover 6. Cover 3, we're the 3rd highest. Cover 1, we're the 2nd lowest. So what does that tell you? They are not coming with the blitz. They are not dialing it up. We thought Shula would be dialing it up a lot more, but they're not. Right. And probably because of the defensive issues that they just don't have the luxury to do so. And there's your quarter by quarter breakdown. If you take a look, this is what they are scoring. I mean, look at their first quarter, the Rams' first quarter offensively. Look at that output. 1.2 points per game, 5.2 for the second quarter, 4.8 for the third. What's their best quarter? The fourth, because they're playing catch up. So when you start to take a look at this, this really tells you they're playing from behind. First half of the league time of possession, right? First half, 14th. Second half time of possession, dead last. Or close to last, I should say. 28 there in the bottom four. So what does that tell you? The other team is holding on to the ball. They can't get the ball back, right? A lot of that has to do with their run deficiencies on defense. Take a look at their first half point per game, 31st. Second half point per game is very respectable, 8th. Okay, first half point per games against, 24th and 25th. So they're equally bad in both halves.
So they need to come out of that tunnel, and McVay's got to tell them, okay, boys, we're down 14-0. Let's go get them.
There you go. But these slow starts have been really been a major factor for them. They've been behind the 8 ball from the jump start. It's really tough to play football that way. And that's a contributing factor why McVay gets away from the run so quickly.
And I think the unwillingness to blitz and the inability to really put consistent pressure, that affects the turnover differential, right? Because those are the plays that lead to poor passes, interceptions, strip sacks, fumbles, all that good stuff.
Third down efficiency. If you can't get them off the field and they stay on the field, then that's how you get worn out. We got where the point differential is minus 45 right now. That's an average of 9 points per game. If you take a look at the game one, but we've been right there. If you take out this blowout, Ram Nation, take a look at this. It's not that bleak. Game one, lost by 6. Game 3, won by 3. Game 4, lost by 6. Game 5, lost by 5. So there you go. Makes a big difference, right? When you're coming down this stretch. So they were behind in every game. I mean, you take out the blowouts, it's a different story. But I mean, it's huge. You can't, they've been right there. They've been able to fight their way back into the game, but that's something that they really have to work on. You can't play behind all the time. And there you go, right there. Kyren, 6 TDs, Staff, 3 TDs, right? So points scored were 18-8, 18.8, 27.8 points again. Just to put that in context for you, that's where it is. And for those of you that are saying we're overstating the running game, Kyren has accounted for six of the 10 TDs. One of them is a defensive TD. The other 3 came from Staff, right? Throwing the ball. So take a look at this. Kyren has been providing the run game has been providing the points here.
Yeah, I think the passing TDs are Kyren, Cup, and DeMarcus, right?
Yeah, DeMarcus Robinson had his first. Yeah. And there's your turnover differential, right? We're at -2, 2 defensive INTs, 2 fumble recoveries, but we've given it 3 INTs and 3 fumble losses. So when you take a look at this, it really, speaks to what we already know, right? That they really have to change it up, that their coverages, the teams have adapted. They know the Rams are basically running the same 2 coverages a large bulk of the time, right? And they know how to attack it. And that's okay. But for the coverages that they're running, and that's the bottom line, Ram Nation, if you want to run cover 3, you want to run cover 6, hey, that's not a bad thing, but you got to get to the quarterback with your front 4. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So those coverages are predicated to you getting coverage based on the pressure from the front 4. So that's the problem right there. So these first 3 slides really tell you what's going on from the defensive side of the ball in terms of pass coverage and how it sort of correlates with the pressure rate.
Yeah, and if you're listening on the podcast, hey, jump over to the YouTube channel, check out the videos. I think you'll enjoy it a lot more. And while you're there, subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it. So let's get to those grades. Ian had the idea of let's assign some grades to some of the moves the Rams have made. We'll start with the front office, and at the top here, we're listing all the 2024 coaching hires and how they've turned out. And we'll also talk about Aubrey Pleasant, who's been here for a little bit. So, Ian, your thoughts on the Chris Shula hire? How do you feel about that one?
Oh, baby. You know, I've heard some of our Rams media members have this analogy. Shout out to everyone on ESPN LA radio. I've heard this by a bunch of people there of that. You can have one of the best chefs in the world, but if you give him bad ingredients, there's not much of a good cuisine he can cook up for you. And I've heard that be compared to Chris Shula, maybe not being this master chef, but hey, man, his ingredients that he's working with on defense isn't doing too good. But I gotta give it. I gotta give it, man. I gotta give it an F. I gotta give it an F. There's just no doubt about it for Chris Shula there because we were expecting more pressure, more exotic looks because he is a blend, supposedly, of hey, you were around Wade Phillips. Hey, you were around. Uh, I'm blanking on his name right now. Excuse me, everybody. 2020 coordinator who's got fired with the Chargers. Right, he was very
Daily.
exotic with this stuff. Staley, geez, I couldn't think of it. Thank you very much, Staley. Hey, Raheem, you had to spin on Raheem, who's done a lot of 4-3 stuff. And it was this whole thing all offseason by many, many people where it was like, man, he's taking from all of them. It's going to be so unique and so the same, but he's going to have his unique spin on it. And it just has been cover 6 all day long. The illustration that you were going through earlier, Paul, showed that the film don't lie. It's cover 6 all the dang time, quarters coverage of some type, and teams are shredding us. So the adjustments that are not happening, that's on coordination, that's on game planning. And because things haven't changed and it's just been big play after big play, and yeah, there's been some good moments, but are you adjusting? Are you changing things up through 5 weeks? I got to give him an F. No doubt about it.
Yeah, we'll get to Paul's grades here on the second slide. Paul went through every one of these. Unless you want to speak now, we can wait to the next one, Paul, where we go through your grades. Um, but I'd have to agree. The biggest problem I have with Shula is, I think you kind of alluded to it. There's everybody. The offense knows exactly what we're doing pretty much every play. Then, right? We're just not mixing it up. And
No.
it's a young team. We got to cut them a little bit of slack, and for that reason, I'd maybe give them a D. But very disappointing. This is for a young coach. What a great opportunity to come in and show what he's got and coach up some young guys and make them dynamic and unpredictable and mix things up. And it's just not happening. It's just been really depressing. Um, yeah, I can't say much. I can't really say much about the Scott Frost hire. Do you got any goods on that, Ian? What do you think? Has it added anything to the way the Rams do things? I'm not so sure.
Well, special teams hasn't been a complete disaster like it was last year. Bottom 5 in every metric in the last 20 years is where it was at in 2023, which is insane, by the way, how bad that was. So, we let go of some other assistants on special teams, and that was kind of out of the blue. And McVay said, hey, we're going a different direction and yada, yada, yada. So the former college head coach, there's been some positive. So I got to give it right now. I'll give it an A because of
now is his role specifically special teams overall, or
that is what I would read, and that's what McVay had said. I mean, he said he would dabble in different areas, but it was more special teams heavy. And kicker has looked pretty solid. Yeah, there's been some misses, and a lot of kickers have missed. Evans has been punting well. The coverage unit has not looked lost. They have not looked slow, or they have not looked like they were giving up their responsible gaps when going to attack on kickoff or punt or even returning. Everyone hasn't been too many holding calls or dumb blocks in the bags. There hasn't been a lot of that, and that's an insane improvement since last year. So for him, I got to give it an A for turning it from one of the worst in 20 years to now respectable and making positive plays and helping us try to win games. No doubt about it.
And you probably feel the same about Chase Blackburn then?
Yeah. I'll couple him in there with an A for figuring it out too. So Ian's great for Blackburn. You get an A too, special teams coordinator.
Now, the quarterbacks coach, how how much of an impact does a quarterbacks coach have when you have a quarterback like Matthew Stafford in there? We'd probably see a better reflection of his contribution would be if we saw a little bit of Stetson Bennett, perhaps. So I'm not sure what to say about Dave Ragone. Stafford seems to be playing pretty well overall. I can't really venture a guess on his contribution or how that hire has worked out. Your thoughts, Ian?
Well, if I got to put a grade on it, and Matthew Stafford's elite, and what have you done with Stetson Bennett? Well, I mean, eh, not much.
Yeah,
So I'll give him a D, just because the Stetson Bennett thing, I haven't seen any improvement at all. And I get it, he was away from football, but it's part of coaching. Hey, let's uplift you, let's get you looking better, and it really wasn't looking good. So how can I give him any passing grade? A C or above if you're working with a guy who needs improvement and hasn't shown any improvement. That's on coaching. So should it be an F? You can argue that, but I'll give him a D because it wasn't a complete disaster from Stetson, but there was nothing that was going on that was better from
yeah.
Raccoon there for our young quarterback there.
Now our tight ends, the Rams' use of tight ends has always baffled me. Bryson Hopkins, I thought he was going to emerge. Davis Allen, he's been dinged up, but I still don't think they've really got him involved in the offense late last year or this past week, right? And then there's Hunter Long. When they were running 12 personnel, he seemed to play well. Got no targets. Finally got a couple receptions last week, and then I think you've suggested, Ian, that Colby Parkinson, and you, Paul, as well, that Colby Parkinson has been a poor route runner, has not been as physical as you'd expect for his size. So I suspect we're going to give a poor grade to Coach Nick Caley. Is that the case, Ian?
Well, I'll would it be a good grade? No, but I'll give him a C for the moment because I do think that a lot of the blocking has looked pretty clean from Colby Parkinson. I think a lot of the blocking we've seen from Hunter Long when he's been out there has been pretty good. So I think they've developed a way to not be bad blockers in this scheme that we do. Because Colby's pulling as a lead blocker. You'll see him wham blocking where like he'll do like a trap block like Lyman would and clear somebody out. You'll see kick out blocks. We've seen Hunter Long do this. Davis Allen, excuse me, has been injured a bunch, so we just haven't seen him really. But could the pass game stuff be much better from all of them? Could that be coached up? No doubt about it. But I think I can give him a C here because I have seen Hunter Long, who is not known for being a solid blocker, has looked pretty good in his blocking moments. Not perfect, but has looked pretty good when he's been out there. So I'll give him a C for the moment.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, defensive line, Jeff Smith. Is that how you say his first name? Is it GIF
Giff.
or Jeff? GIF
Giff.
Smith.
Yeah.
GIF Smith. So, I think of two players when I think about this hire. One is Bobby Brown, and the other is Braden Fisk. I think Kobe Turner already established himself as a force, as a good player. Bobby Brown is just stagnated in his development, and Braden Fisk, on the other hand, looks pretty promising. So I don't know your thoughts. You have a grade for him, Ian? We're going to get to yours, Paul. We'll hit yours on the next bit since you've already assigned him, and we'll see how yours align with Ian's grades here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how this can't be anything other than an F. So I know Coach Henny leaving to USC was a big deal, and I think that has a lot to do with Aaron Donald, riding off into the Hall of Fame sunset that he was destined for. But when you are one of the worst D line pass rush groups in the entire NFL, or the worst, actually, let's not bump them up here. It's on coaching. How can you not get them to perform, even not dead last? And Kobe Turner, who should have been Defensive Rookie of the Year, is doing a lot. Yes, Braden Fisk has had a lot of good moments, but for the group overall, because it's not just about them two, it's about the whole unit, Bobby Brown, Tyler Davis, the rookie, and others, being uplifted and getting coached up. I mean, it's just been bad. And again, could it be untalented players in the group? I don't think so. And I know Gift Smith has a nice reputation with the Chargers for a long time and throughout the league, but in terms of what he's done with this group this season, hasn't been good enough. And when you're dead last, you deserve an F, and that's what I give him here.
Now, outside linebackers, Joe Caniglo. That's a tough call. I mean, I think Verse and Byron Young. Byron Young came out of the gate really fast, and I think he's been a little quieter. He did have the big play on Jordan Love. I don't know. I think this unit's played okay overall. What are your thoughts on? You got a grade for him, Ian?
Yeah, I'll, I'll give him a B. I think he's done a nice job of every week getting Jared Verse to be more disciplined, to control his gaps in the run game much better. I think we've seen him deploy or be a part of the deployment of Michael Hoyt in coverage more as an inside linebacker, which I think he can handle. And we started to see that as we talked about earlier. We've seen Byron Young handle the run a lot better. And that's coaching, that's technique, that's obviously getting bigger and strong in the weight room. But a lot of it is, hey, how do you get your leverage, your body position, be able to take on blocks and not get blown up or not get moved out of the way? That's definitely coaching. So for what he's done with Verse, as Verse has gotten better, I think every week with his run discipline, Byron has gotten better. Hoyt has just gotten better and has been deployed in different ways. That's coaching. So I'll give him a B for the moment at this point in the season.
Yeah, the game management thing is another tough one to address. I think it was Blaine Grizak, or it might have been him on Twitter, posted some stats about the Rams being one of the most aggressive teams in the league, if not the most aggressive on fourth down, and insinuating that's Striker's influence. But other than that, as for, if we're talking about run versus pass and when to run and when to pass in critical situations. I don't know if he's impacting McVay in a positive way in that regard. What are your thoughts on this game management consultant?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen like tons of burn timeouts from Coach McVay this season, so that's a positive. Usually McVay's ready to pull the trigger, the 5 minutes into the first quarter, calling timeouts for the offense or all that stuff. But I'll give him a C for the moment. I don't think it's hard to say what impact he's truly had other than getting McVay to not burn timeouts. But we'll see as the season goes on when we're in tighter games with more of our star players and see how that really gets, ironed out. And I'll give it a C because there's been some weird 2-point conversion, questionable decisions in previous games where that's been like, was that very analytical driven or was that McVay just saying, F it, my team can score in the red zone or we can get points? So because of those things kind of being blurry and because he has a part in that, I'll give him a C. It hasn't been good. It hasn't been great. And I'm sure he has a hand in those weird decisions that we've seen the last couple of weeks. So C I think is appropriate right here.
And inside linebackers, we can all say it together. It's got to be an F, right? Greg Williams.
Now, yeah, we got to give it an F, or at least I do for sure. And again, I know the talent deficit is there with the group right now, but it's like, hey, can you coach up Omar Spates and Jake Hummel, and at least let's see what they got? I mean, are they not? Are they that bad where they can't see the field? And again, it's early in the season. I do expect changes to be made in that group. Most likely, I have no inside knowledge, but it just feels like that is coming. But as of right now, got to give it an F. I mean, guys who should be getting opportunity aren't. The guys that are in are continuing to play poor. That's on coaching. Got to give him an F.
Yeah, and the next two guys we're going to talk about were guys that got other teams moved off of them, shall we say? Put a nice way of putting it. We'll start with senior defensive assistant Sean Desai, and I know you've already expressed to us, Ian, your disappointment with his role, his contribution so far.
Yeah, well, we'll give
Oh,
that.
that came up. That F came up quick.
Well, look, man, all these grades again. We're not talking about the humans. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about what are you doing to help a football team. That's all we're talking about. And for him, I got to give him a big F. Let's be honest, Rams Nation out there. He was canned as defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles halfway through the season. Middle of the season, they were like, "Yeah, you suck. We'll have Matt Patricia call defensive plays." So he's been a terrible coordinator. So they chose Matt Patricia, who hasn't been a good defensive play caller when he hasn't been with Bill Belichick in years. They said,
Yeah.
you take over because it's so bad. And the main reason that he did get canned is because of the secondary not playing well that entire year, or up until, he got canned and they were still not playing well. Shocker. But he comes over as a senior defensive assistant. And is it a coincidence that our secondary continues to give up big play after big play after big play and has coverage bust after coverage bust after coverage bust with him on our staff? I don't think that's coincidence. I think that is a direct correlation for that being the case. So I don't know the dude. Again, these grades are based strictly off football, but how did we hire him and think this was a good idea based on how bad it went in Philadelphia with his pass defense and his D coordinator duties? Jeez.
And we can say the same about Aubrey Pleasant, who was basically fired by the Lions, right?
Yeah, similar situation. I know Aubrey was with us the previous season and it wasn't so bad, but now that he's been elevated to a higher pass game coordinator role, now on top of the head coaching assistant role, or the assistant head coach, excuse me. And again, great dude. I loved the mic'd up he had in the preseason. I'm sure he's a good rallier of troops, but Lions had one of the worst pass defenses when he was there for a couple seasons. And then they canned him in the middle of the season and said, yeah, it's so bad, you need to leave as well. And then is it a shock now that he has that higher responsibility on defense that, again, just like Desai, everything I said about him, that the defense is just not good in the pass game? I don't think that's a shock. So right now with his elevated role on defense, I got to give him an F too. No doubt about it.
Yeah, well, it just, makes you question the thought process in the Rams front office for some of these hires, especially guys that are getting fired, leading units that just underperform in a really bad way. So, Paul, you've been sitting by quietly waiting for your turn, and Paul took the time before class to fill out his answer sheet. And let's see, how does this map to Ian's? Let's see, you gave Shula an F and Scott Frost an F as well. A lot of Fs on this score sheet, right, Paul. Explain yourself.
Just like here at Rams Up, we're a family. We ride together, we die together. This unit's got to ride together, you die together. It's that simple, So listen, I don't think my viewpoints are any different than Power I there. Ian, I hit the nail on the head, as did you, Mark. So the bottom line is, every coordinator we had put their signature on the defense, right? Wade Phillips was, listen, he's the GOAT, right? He brought that nasty defense that played that nice, aggressive 3-4 transition to Staley. Staley played that tight front, very, nice. What a contrast to this defense, right? That gap discipline, know you're down in distance, very intelligent defensive coordinator. We went to Raheem, who he knew what he was doing out there. He got the most out of every player, really knew how to utilize the personnel very, very well. And then Chris Shula, look, we were all like puzzled. It was not a high sort of profile hire, but, we got to give the guy a chance. And this is why I really think he gets the F. His signature was what? Linebackers. That's his background. What has been the weakness of this team? Linebackers. So you're going to go down with the ship on that one, in my opinion. So I got to give him an F. And like you're all saying, like, we really don't know what was the role of Scott Frost, how involved is, Sean Desai, et cetera. So if your defensive coordinator is getting an F, you guys got to get an F. Tight ends, I gave a D, and I'll tell you why I gave them a D. I think we have a solid group of tight ends. I think the Rams have always had a solid group of tight ends. What's puzzling is Sean McVay spent how many years being a tight end coach? And we've watched from what was his name, Jacob Harris, to now, where they can't develop a second tight end. If it wasn't for Higbee, who would we have out there? We've watched all sorts of players, from one of my favorites, Bryson Hopkins, till now. Everett before him, they did get a little bit of production out of, but we really haven't. But I think from the talent base that they have to what they're getting, and in all fairness to Coach Cayley, right? The injuries have been a major factor here with this unit, but I still think they need to get more out of this unit. They played solid this far, but not to the point where you're going to be like, this is a dominant position. So I had to give them a D. I mean, outside linebackers, listen, we're talking about two young dogs, they got to be dominant. You got to be dominating the game. But I also think that's a function of the scheme. So once again, these other coaches have to get the F grade because, the unit as a whole is not playing well. We looked at the stats, and that's why we said we're going to base this on reality, not perception. And the reality, the numbers speak for themselves. If you're in the bottom 2 or 3 of the league on defense on both sides in terms of pass game and run game, and when I watch the tape, it's very simple. They're not even lined up in the right gaps. So, I mean, that's fundamental football. And Ram Nation, you can turn on any game, pick a defensive series at random, and you will watch it. And a play that really stood out was Curl, because one of the reasons I went back is I got to see why Curl is really struggling, and that's what happened. You're assigned a gap. You're protecting that gap. If you're the force player, you're forcing everything inside. Well, the players inside have to make the play. If you're the spill player inside and you're sending it to the force player outside's got to make that play. That's not happening. It's like Keystone Cops out there. And that's why running backs are able to cut back against the Rams. They're able to be patient, and they will see a gap open just like it's like the parting of the seas, and then there they go. And that's what's been happening. And that's just fundamentally bad football across gap integrity. That's football at its core. That's what it's all about. So as a unit, game management, honestly, they have played some really tight games, and all except for one game we came up short. Time management has been an issue down the stretch. Going for it on certain downs has been, and the play calls in key scenarios has been an issue. So I had to if he's there in the headset with McVay, he needs to speak a little bit louder because there's been some major issues in key scenarios down there. But as a unit, I would say, and for me, listen, I'm all about Optimus 9. No wonder he's got, he's listed as back, because this dude has taken hit after hit after hit. And when it's all said and done, and this, I guess if you want to call it unit, as well as Les Snead and Coach McVay get a chance to really clear their head and think about it, they're going to be like, man, we really wasted Stafford, man. We really put him through the ringer, right? Because if you look at the beginning of this season, the fact this guy is still showing up is an absolute miracle that he's not in the ER somewhere. He has taken vicious hit after vicious hit after vicious hit. So if you're the quarterback coach, you're getting an F, man. There's no way, right? No way that they have come up with a game plan that has protected Stafford. Not at all. And Aubrey Pleasant, I won't even comment. The secondary has been lost in every game. And whether it's a function of his play or the coordination between himself and Shula, like I said, they're a unit. They go down together.
I almost feel bad calling out Stafford as my my poor player of the week now. You guys reminding me how much he's gotten hit and some of these poor routes as guys like Colby and Tutu are running. So maybe I was a little hard on Stafford there. Hey, let's talk about the free agency, the free agent signings, give them some grades. And what I'd like to do here is I think I'm just going to jump to Paul's grade sheet because I have a feeling we're going to be in total agreement on most of these grades. I have a feeling, so you might as well go straight there. And I'll let you take it off the top there, Ian. You agree with Paul's? Walk through it. He gave the Trey White signing a D. Seems about spot on, maybe even worse. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, let's go through it, everybody. Trey White, F. I mean, signed him big money, got benched, F. Failure. I mean, we gave him big, pretty solid, good money. I wouldn't say Jalen Ramsey, top 5 corner in the league or highest paid corner ever money. Of course not. But we paid him solid to be a difference maker, got benched, F. Darius Williams, I know you have incomplete, and that's probably more on the fair side, but he hasn't been on the field. That's an F right now. His contributions would have been greatly appreciated if he was out there. And again, I know injuries can't be controlled by a player. It happens. I get it. But based on you sign a guy to be out there and contribute, he was not out there. We lost a lot of games. F for him as well. Safety Cameron Curl, I'll give him I'll give him an F as well. Let's just be honest. He has not looked like the player every coaching staff and opposing coaching staff in joint practices, training camp talked about. Everyone was like, man, Cam Curl is so smart. He's making plays on the football. There's so many passes he's breaking up. Man, what a leader he is. And he looks lost a lot of times. And he's looked a little slow, to be honest with you, which has been disappointing. Has it been terrible? No. But has it been good? Absolutely not. So with that, all the expectations, everyone hyping him up, everyone talking like he was going to be some insane difference maker. I mean, this has been a failure as well. John Johnson signed to a short, veteran contract, if I'm not mistaken. It wasn't anything big, and I get it, but uh, I'll give him a D, I guess, because he got injured so early and because he was cheap and wasn't expected to start off the bat, right? It was more like Cam Curl, Quentin Lake, and Kitchens were the guys that everyone thought going in, and then Johnson, just being a true veteran, earned his way into it. So I'll give it a D, just because the injury screws us now. And it's like, well, that signing went to heck. Leadership is a big deal. I get it, but just production on the field, got to say that. Jimmy Garoppolo, I got to give that an F as well. We were all stressed for 2 weeks, hoping that we didn't have to see Stetson Bennett out there, and him getting suspended for some nonsense with his ankle surgery, him taking some supplement that was banned, was a big, oh my gosh, are you kidding me moment. So, we paid him pretty serious money to be the backup, for him not even to be available in big games at the beginning of the year where everyone was just holding their breath that Stafford's going to make it. That was an F at this point right now. Tight end Colby Parkinson, I agree with the C, because I do think he runs smooth routes. I do think he has soft hands when the ball is thrown to him. But the blocking has been positive. But for a dude who's 6'7" and is this elite blocker that he was tagged as in Seattle, I haven't seen the eliteness in the blocking game. And then again, 6'7", go up and grab the damn football when it's thrown to you. Hey, can you extend your long and wide body to box somebody out and make a big catch there? He just doesn't seem that he's had that ability. And hopefully during the bye week, he can reflect on himself and start making some big plays. So I give it a C, but we gave him big money, and it hasn't been big money tied in plays that we've seen from him. And guard going to Jonah Jackson. I know you're going to go incomplete here, but I got to give it an F as well. Similar to Darius Williams, you have not been out there when you were expected to be a key contributor. Jonah Jackson has had major injuries the last couple years, or he's missed serious time. We took that gamble. I get it. He is a Pro Bowl level guard, but for him to be hurt all through training camp and off season, and then to play a game and a half and then injure himself again where he's going to miss half the season, I don't know how you say that's not an F when you paid him. That was your big free agent signing. So those are my quick thoughts on all those.
Yeah, for those listeners on the podcast, Paul gave Jimmy a grade of Y, and Paul, you're saying, why the heck did we sign this guy, right? Yeah, you were never a fan of that
Why
signing, right?
is he? So I had to fill out these grades begrudgingly for the coaches and for everyone else, because in my opinion, when you play a pro sport, there's 2 grades. There's A and C me behind closed doors. Those should be the only 2 grades on a football team, whether it's baseball, hockey, whatever it is. Those are 2 grades. A, close the door, and C me. That's what the coach tells you. So, and I agree, like what Ian is saying. So the only issue I have is with, for example, like Colby Parkinson. So this is like a charity C, and because that's my point. You're 6'7", you're 250, and you're calling for flags. You're already in the wrong mindset, dude. Right? If there's no separation between you and the defensive back in the NFL, if there's no separation, that's on the receiver. It's your job to separate. There's 2 ways to get separation: speed, physicality, and then the third way is run routes. If you're not getting separation, look at one of those 3. Bottom line. Right? Don't start screaming for flags in the end zone at the end of the game. Dude, are you serious? Lay out. Jay Witt got himself hurt because he laid out for a ball. And the last play of the game, you put out one hand. If I was a coach, oh my goodness, he better take a cat home, because he would not want to show up in the locker room. So that was a charity C. But, the injuries have been significant here, and they were counted on these players. Johnny Johnson, That's what I had said from the beginning of the season. If you looked at the safety types they had a lot of safeties that were box safeties. They didn't really have that center fielder type. And if you look at the roster right now, John Johnson's the only one. And the reason I'm saying that is that, and when we get to the latter slide, you'll see is that the Rams' best look right now is their dime package. Moving forward, their dime package is going to be their best look moving forward. The problem is to get into that dime package, you have to be able to stop the run on early downs. Sound familiar? Wade Phillips, Staley, Raheem Morris, right? Listen, Raheem Morris put a Sean Robinson on the map, baby, because that's exactly what Ashawn's job was. And if you look at the number of times they were in third down where it was 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 5 even, that's defendable. 3rd and 2, you're going to get killed every time. So that's the bottom line. But when you look at this unit, the theme here is, and we have the slides and the stats, right, before we came into this, is that, listen, just underperformed all around. Free agency, we did not get a lot of bang for your buck. That's something. And these are talented players. You go down this list, these are talented players. The bottom line now for the second half of the season has to be full speed ahead. Listen, if you can't be out there, if you're not available, well, that's a negative, right? That's the bottom line. We can't wait for these guys. You got to find guys that can deliver. If they can't, you got to go out and get guys that can deliver. You cannot get into another year where like, okay, let's wait till next year. This is going to be the 3rd year in a row where they're in this mindset. They got to get out of this mindset. You got to win today. And that's the bottom line. So free agency wise, across the board collectively, it's been a bust.
Yeah, you guys keep on bringing up Wade Phillips, and if you see me looking to my side here, I got this photo of that defense that year, and man, it is such a great photo. I'll have to take a picture of it and share it sometime. LaMarcus Joyner, Sue, Aaron Donald, Aqib Talib, Corey Littleton, just that team, 11 guys in this picture, just a bunch of studs. Man, brings back memories. So let's go to the draft picks. Let's assess the draft picks here real quick. And, I still have an overall positive feeling about this group, 10 draft picks. But let's take it one at a time. Paul's got his grades on the next slide, but we can jump to that in a second here. I feel much more comfortable assigning grades to this than I do the coaches and the free agent signings. But Jared Verse, I would give a low A minus, B plus. I think he won Defensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Month, right? So something's good is happening there. And then Braden Fisk, and I'm taking into account where they're drafted here. I'd give Braden Fisk probably a B minus. Let's talk about those two first so we don't get drowned in names here. How do you feel about Verse and Fisk, Ian? I'm making it hard for you to throw those banners up. Sorry about that.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think because I'm just thinking about where I'm going to throw these guys as well, as I've had my initial thoughts. But you start talking about it and you start thinking about it a little more in depth sometimes. Yeah, for Verse, I mean, my grade it'll probably be a B, ironically, and I think it'll be that because there was a lot of good, right? And I'm going to throw this graphic up real quick just so you can see her on stage. Is pressure leaders among rookies. Jared Verse is at 20 and Braden Fisk is at 15. And that's pretty freaking fantastic for them to be the top 2 guys when everyone in Los Angeles was hoping that Laiatu Latu, who's on the Colts right now, was going to land because he was playing really good football at UCLA. And we're thinking, hey, keep that LA connection going. That would be really good. That'd be really fun to see that. And he was a good player, but things worked out for the better. Right. There was a lot of people who liked the Alabama edge rusher who went to the Vikings. A lot of people who like Robinson who went to the Dolphins, and he's been non-existent there. There's been people who have all their flavor of picks, and Verse was maybe not the favorite. Braden Fisk was an unknown by a lot of people, unless you talk to some draft experts like, that guy has potential. So it's worked out pretty well for them too. And with that, I'm going to also give Braden Fisk a B as well, because I've seen some good things. I've seen him recover fumbles. I've seen him get to the quarterback and have a lot of pressures. But the key is they got to get these guys to the ground. But they're getting there. They're making a difference enough on this really bad defense. And again, I think they would get A's if they were able to just get to the quarterback and take him to the ground. Seriously. And I do think they'll get better over time, but give them a B for now. At least it's not a C or less or a failing grade. And I think that's fair for both Jared Verse, Fisk, the Florida State guys.
Hey, Paul, feel free to jump in here. We don't have to wait for your final
Yeah.
grades on the next page, but
Absolutely. Listen, their grades are more reflective of scheme, to be honest with you. No question about it. But these are talented guys, right? Fisk and Verse are talented guys. The bottom line now is to put them in positions where they can really make impact plays on a consistent basis, right? You've had 5 games to take a look at this, and you really have to look in the mirror as a coach and say, listen, I got Verse. These two guys are dogs. How can they, maximize as a coaching staff the productivity of these two players? Look, they have to play as rookies. That's not easy to do in the NFL, right? And these are two dogs. You were talking about some of the names you were throwing out before. Think about that. Those were veteran players that were brought in with nasty, nasty reputations, right? You bring Kong in, Sue's reputation, wherever he goes, they know who you're bringing in, right? So
yeah,
these guys are young guys that are coming in with an edge, but they got to finish. The bottom line is their grade is reflective of the fact you got to finish, and that's not from the coach. You got to finish.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
these are two uber talented guys, and they are going to be the face of the Rams on defense for a very long time.
Yeah, I'm going to have to share this photo next episode because it's a photo of 11 dudes waiting for the offense to walk up, and they have this look like get your asses up here and snap the ball. We want to play. That's what it looks like to me. But now Blake Corum's an interesting case. Now, from what I've seen, the limited amount of plays I've seen from him, I'm really excited. But the question is, are the Rams just bringing him along slowly and he's going to play and be an impact player in the second half of the season? Is he just insurance? If Kyron gets hurt, if Kyron stays healthy, we're not going to see that much of Blake Corum. Or is Kyron walking after this season and Blake Corum's all about next year? So it's kind of hard to grade him. But out for a mid-third round pick, I don't know. Was it the wise position to draft at that point, given the issues we're having across our defense?
Yeah.
So the player, I think, is a B plus. The draft pick, where they picked him, the position they picked, might be like a C minus. You guys with me on this?
Yeah, I think that's fair for your grade there, Mark. I mean, based on all the needs that are now showing their ugly face on defense and how much they are using Kyron, where it was more like hey, we're going to get Blake in there. And it's going to be rotation to keep Kyron fresh. We heard that a lot, right? From reporters that, team officials and coaches like, hey, we want to keep Kyron fresh for the long haul of the season. And I guess, of course, things went to disastrous heights with everyone getting injured. So it's like the only way we're going to win ball games is if we give Kyron the ball. So I think I'm going to also give him a C because Blake, when he's out there, I've seen good things, but he's just not getting the playing time, which I think is questionable at this point. But on the flip side of the coin, Kyron has been out there and has been playing awesome. So it hasn't been like, maybe, hey, Kyron looks a little tired, looks a little slow. I mean, he's playing fantastic, like an all-pro again. So I would like to see Blake Corum more. I mean, we were on this pod for this first couple of weeks saying, what the hell did we draft him? What was the point of it? But it seems like now he will be getting a bigger role going forward, which is nice. But for him to not be playing much through these first 5 weeks is disappointing. But maybe there was an initiative like, hey, he isn't as ready in pass pro as we need him to be. And that's a big part of any offense as a running back. So I'll give it a C. And I'm probably being a little generous about that, truthfully.
So Cam Kinchin's third round pick, that's got to be, I don't know, man. Late third round pick. I think it might have been the last pick of the third round, the last regular pick, or maybe it was a comp pick. I'm not sure. I don't know. I got to go with a D on our Cam Kinchins. He did not look comfortable out there at all. Well, how do you guys feel about him? We'll get to yours in a minute, Paul, but you can share your grade now if you want.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good.
No, it's got to be an F, dude. It's got to be an F. I mean, he was somebody who the coaching staff was like, man, he's a really mature player. Gosh, he really understands what we're trying to do. What a hard hitting player at the University of Miami. We had him in our group mock draft at the 3rd round, and we hit that the exact pick, which is kind of funny and crazy that ended up being. And we were pretty excited, like, hey man, what a good steal that is for a potential
Yeah.
starting safety. And he was getting a lot of burn, and then he was phased out as training camp went on, as John Johnson reemerged himself as a good veteran presence. And then when he got his opportunity to be out there, it just looks flat out bad. There's just no way around it. And I get it, you're a rookie and all that. But for him to look as out of place in run fits, for him to look as lost and disoriented in his coverage responsibilities, and him just doing some boneheaded football plays where it's like, come on, man, you should know better not to get faked out like that on a scramble drill. You shouldn't do this or that. It's got to be an F. I mean, he hasn't looked good at all since he's been out there, and now he's benched for some other undrafted rookies who are in his place in these dime or nickel packages. So it's got to be an F for me.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's tough. This scheme that the Rams have been running has been tough on everybody. So it's really, really hard. Can you imagine being a rookie and being in this scheme? So it's really, really tough. The thing about Blake Corum, just to go back to that for a sec, so the Rams have an interesting decision to make. If they're going to roll, so Blake Corum has looked quick, he looked tough, he runs hard for his size. So I think he's a really what we expected. He is the perfect complement to Kyren. The Rams have to make a decision. They have to commit to the running game for the rest of the season, and the way that they're going to do that is by giving Iron enough touches, but at the same time integrating Blake. It's not just a change of pace. These are two tough running backs that get positive yards, get tough yards, but they change the mentality of the offense. And Ram Nation, go back and watch the O-line reactions on running plays. And the last Iron Kyren touchdown, look at Stafford throw his hands up at the right, maybe a second after Kyren has left the mesh point. You see Staff with his hands up. I mean, it's a different offense, man. They're pumped. They're excited. That's what football is all about. The bottom line is, if the Rams are going to commit to Blake and Kyren down the stretch for the rest of the season. Why is that so important? Because if that's the case, then Ronnie Rivers, you got to get Blake off the kickoff return team. He does not belong there. You got to put Ronnie Rivers out there with the X-Men, and you got to juice up the return game then. That's the decision that they have to make. So if they're going to roll, then your RB3's got to go into that kickoff spot, right? Because it makes no sense to have Blake on that kickoff return team. It makes no sense. So that's what they have to sort out. But I think, he's a dynamic running back. He needs more touches. He's waited his turn. And I got to give the kid credit. They were interviewing him. They asked him all these questions. And the first thing he said was he thanked Kyren Williams for all the pointers and the support in the preseason. That shows you that's why they drafted him. End of story. Give this kid the rock. Let him support Kyren and build your running game around this too. Cam is going to be a hammer, but he's got to learn the role. Right now, he's struggling.
Yeah, I think not only are Williams and Corum similar in style, they're also similar in character, I think. Now, Brennan Jackson is a tough one to grade because, we heard early on in training camp he was hurt. And I don't know if he's still hurt, maybe dinged up a little bit, and that's why he's been inactive, or he's just not good enough to get on the field. He's not as good as Nick Hampton, some of those guys. So I don't know what to say about him, but a 5th round pick, you got to weigh it like that a little bit, but it's got to be at best a C- or maybe one of Paul's incomplete grades. I don't know, Ian, how do you feel about that draft pick at this point?
Yeah, I'm just marinating on it as you say C- here for Brendan Jackson, and I respect that, but I come from the mindset of like, okay, you're drafted. Are you on the roster? Are you getting playing time? Like, what is your role? And yes, he was hurt, and maybe that's lingering, but he was back at practice not that long ago, a couple weeks ago, and he's just not showing enough. I don't know if that's injury related, but it's got to be enough because a lot of the organizations, same thing. I don't know if they were just on this hype train for a lot of our players, where they were like, man, Brennan's going to be a factor. He's doing really good things in practice, yada, yada, yada. I guess, yes, the injury can cause issues and no doubt about it, but he's been back for a while and they choose to keep him inactive. hey, you're not good enough to be in the rotation on this defense that needs help. That's got to be an F for me, guys.
Fair
You
enough.
can't get a grade. You can't get a grade if you don't hand in the work. Bottom line. You gotta get on the field first for it to get a grade. But he's a big boy. He can get after the quarterback. So maybe it is just injuries, whatever the situation is, until he gets out there. But if they can get him out there, man, he's a big boy who can get after the quarterback. That'd be a nice rush room. The more bodies, the better. Get after it, knock around some quarterbacks, create some turnovers.
Yeah, isn't he the guy that the Rams rated as the toughest player in the draft, something like that?
Yeah, one of
But
them, yeah.
you got to also be able to make plays.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Now, defensive tackle Tyler Davis, and I'm going to weigh this as a 6th-round pick. He's in the rotation. Is he an impact player? Absolutely not. I'm not sure how well he's playing. He's not getting a ton of snaps, but considering, I really do take into consideration that sometimes 6th-round picks don't even make a roster. So I'm going to give this pick a C. I have a feeling it seems like I'm being a little more generous than you guys. So I have a feeling I hear some D's coming.
No, I'm going to agree with you here, Mark. I'm going to give him a C as well. I've seen some good moments. I've seen some bad moments, but I do think he is more productive than Bobby Brown. And I was a big proponent of put him out there at nose, other than Bobby. Bobby's just was getting stood up and not getting any push. And we saw Tyler Davis do some good moments at nose, but they're rotating him around. Again, the D-line group as a whole isn't good. We gave the position coach an F, or I did, and others. And it hasn't been good. It hasn't been all bad. It's been some good moments where oh, there you go, Davis. I like how you clogged the hole or how you broke through the line there. So I got to give him a C again. Draft pick position does matter to me a little bit as well once we get to these later rounds. So a C for now, but for someone who Dabo Sweeney said he'd be on the all-time Clemson football team list, right? If they're doing school versus school, I want the greatest Clemson players ever, and he was going to be on there. For him to look meh in moments here, I mean, that's disappointing. So, but again, 6th round, I think a C is appropriate here for what we've seen.
Anything to say, Paul? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's a move that's not being talked about enough is that Jonah Williams is back on the team now. So I think you start to look at the D line. So nose tackle is still a gaping hole. There's no question about it. But now you're starting to see some players that they can work into the mix and back up Fisk and Turner. So I think that's important. I think Tyler Davis warrants more playing time. He's learning on the job. There have been flashes. There have been times where he's just been blown off the ball, but there have been flashes where he has shown some really, really good movement skills and some really solid toughness. So I think Jonah Williams and Tyler Davis definitely working themselves into the mix is going to be huge for the Rams. Yeah. So I think in terms of his grade, whatever grade we give him, I'm going to put a little asterisk there, I think, because he's going to be really valuable to the Rams down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much the Laurel Murchison re-injury had to do with the Jonah Williams signing, or if that would have happened anyways. They got to find some extra people, some extra guys that could come in there and help. So hopefully Jonah's that guy. Now, kicker Joshua Carty, I would have given him probably missing an extra point. It just really bothers me. Might have given him a B except for that. Probably dropped down to maybe a B- at this point. Jury's still out on him. I kind of feel good about him, but I still have some minor concerns in the back of my mind. Do I feel as comfortable with him walking out for a 48-yarder as I did with Matt Gay or Greg the Leg? Absolutely not. But I think he's on the path to being a solid NFL kicker at this point. Still, the jury's still out though.
That's fair. You know what? I'm going to give him an A. You want to know why?
Oh, nice.
Because all the kicks that have gone awry have been because of snap and hold issues, pretty much. We've seen him nail a 50-plus yarder with ease. We've seen him make every other kick where the operation meaning snap to punter to hold, has been clean. And the other times, laces were inward. That will screw up a kick no matter what. I mean, everyone out there, if you ever tried to kick a field goal for fun or just see how far you can get it or high in the air, if you kick the laces, that thing is going to get wonky and forget about it. Even the professionals, it's hard to overcome that. So the couple times where he's missed, it's been that issue for sure. And it's good to have a kicker where you're not stressed about him whiffing a 30-yarder clean,
Yeah.
right? When the operation snap and hold is clean and they're still going to whiff. And shout out to his mom who had the Rams horns on before he even got drafted. I always laugh at that and chuckle at that thinking because she was like, they need a kicker. And she was right. We needed him. And I think he's done a good job so far. And being a rookie with a lot of expectations with how disastrous special teams was last year, right? Bottom 20 or bottom worst in the last 20 years. Insane. So I'll give him an A for just being smooth and hitting the kicks and making some 50-yarders too.
Yeah, I was unaware of the hold or snap issue on the extra point, so bad on me. Any thoughts on Cardi, Paul?
Always listen to mom. Mom is always right. It's been clutch, right? So I think for a lot of these rookies, they're learning on the job. I don't think people appreciate how difficult that is at the NFL level. He's in a high pressure scenario. I mean, and he's come through. He's come through. He's still got a lot of work to do, but it's been a Cardi party so far. So hopefully he'll continue to grow. We got more clutch kicks hopefully coming down the line, and we'll see how he does. But he's shown the moxie that he can hold up. So definitely looks positive.
Yeah, I liked his demeanor when he got that game ball. He just seemed like,
Yeah.
oh shucks, leave me alone. I'm just doing my job. So
Yeah.
wide receiver Jordan Whittington, I kind of grades been up and down on him, but 6th round, very promising. I think Paul's going to be a little harsher than Ian and I, but I'd give him a solid B, if not a B plus at this point. He had one. Ian talked about the game where he struggled against the Bears as far as blocking goes, but everything else about this guy, I love what I see. How do you feel about him, Ian?
Yeah, I think similar to you. I'm gonna give him a B. I'm gonna give him a B plus, truthfully. And why I'm gonna give him that again, I know that the last week's performance in a couple key situations has really grind my football nerves. Just seeing the effort on a block here, seeing the miscommunication on a block there. But the dude is our best receiver right now with Cooper Cup and Akua out. It's not even quite questionable at this point. Catch after he gets the ball, running crisp routes, being our fullback tight end, in the run game like Nakua and Cup, and having clean blocks. I mean, gosh almighty, for this dude to be in the 6th round, for him to contribute this much and look pretty good, other than, again, a couple moments that would keep him away from me giving this an A. I think this is a fantastic 6th round pick here who, similar to Nakua, came out of nowhere and playing good football. And luckily, he did not injure his shoulder too bad when he was out the game. McVay said he should be ready to go against the Raiders after a bye, which is good news because, say Cup doesn't play. I mean, he's going to be the dude who should be featured a ton in the passing game. And I'm happy that it's worked out well for him so far.
Yeah, I undersold him. I'm going to revise my grade to a B plus as well. What am I thinking?
Yeah, I gave Jay Witten. I gave Jay Witten A. I really did because
Yeah.
based on the situation that he walked into, how light the wide receiver room was, he's really delivered. Coming right now when you look at his game, he's got the physicality. The hands are rock solid. They're emerging. And the only question right now is his route running. He can't run the full route tree just yet, but he's learning. He was much better in the Packer game. Before that, you saw that he was running basically short, shallow crosses, outs, some deep curls. But now you saw him run those dig routes. And listen, he is the perfect wide receiver for those 15-yard deep routes, right? So he's really going to feast on the attention that Demarcus Robinson is getting because teams can now focus on D-Rob. I think you're going to see down the stretch, this kid is going to catch fire. And the most important thing, Parkinson, Tutu Atwell, when this kid get the ball in his hands, look at the yak capacity. He's not going down on first contact. He's not running out of bounds. He's piling up yards after the catch. I have to give Jordan Witten an A because of the physicality, the mindset, and the commitment that he has brought for a 6th rounder. I gave him an A.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, Bo Limmer, I would assess Bo Limmer in this way. As a player, probably a B minus. He's been pretty solid. He hasn't been a great player, but as for from a draft pick perspective, I'd give him a higher grade because he's been the answer. I mean, we've ended up needing him very badly. Plug him right in, not miss a beat. Seems to jive well with Matthew Stafford. Haven't had any snap issues I'm aware of, and he's played okay. So solid pick by the Rams here, and I think he was acknowledged as a steal by a lot of so-called draft experts. So yeah, B minus, solid B minus. I could even say maybe even a solid B, considering the fact where he was drafted.
Fair. I'm giving this an A because when your starter, Jonah Jackson, gets hurt, and then, or excuse me, Avila is your starter, and then Jonah Jackson gets hurt. Then he comes back, and it's like, hey, you know what? Actually, Jonah, you should go to center. And it's like, what is happening here? And then they both get hurt. Your two starting centers or starting interior linemen who could interchange, according to our coaching staff and Coach McVay, they both get hurt, and you're like, holy crap. We're in the doomsday scenario at center where we're going to have to play a rookie. Dude has played well. Has it been, oh my God, is it Creed Humphrey, Rams Nation? No, it is not. We just got to get over that. But it's been pretty dang good for someone drafted in the 6th round and saving that position from being an absolute disaster, right? I mean, guys, I got to pull this up right here real quick. I mean, lowest pressure rate allowed by rookie O lineman. He's right now at the 8th spot, and he's only giving up a pressure less than 6% of the time for a rookie who had no expectations coming into this team. And I know a lot of other organizations of fan bases were hoping that they could get him. They thought he was going to be a good player at center or guard. We lucked out, and he's been fantastic. There really hasn't been too many issues other than a block here or there, as you expect with rookies, where things are going to get a little messy. But gosh, he saved us from disaster in the interior. And I got to give that an A, man. I mean, shout out to Limmer, and he's going to be there for much longer. And I hope he continues to improve and at least be a steady force for this O-line, who has just been screwed with injuries through this first, 5 weeks of the season. But A for him, no doubt about it.
I got to go after you, Ian. This isn't fair.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, a lot of those guys on your chart there were 1st and 2nd round picks as well.
Yeah. And the kid on the top was a Puka Power pick, Tanner Bartolini. Remember him?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Tanner Bartolini, look at him blowing it up.
And
I got to give I have to give Bo Limmer an A, man. When a rookie's in the lineup and you don't hear his name called in a negative way all game, right? This kid has been holding it down. And it's a simple question: who would have been at center if it wasn't for Bo?
Oh, we screwed.
The kid's a winner. Limmer is a winner, and he's been holding it down. He's been playing his heart out. He's physical. The communication has been excellent. So I have to give, for a 6th rounder, to hold down a starting center position in the NFL for an offense like the Rams, I'm going to go with both. I'm going to go with A.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I now suddenly I've turned into the harsh grader. So Leviston is an interesting case. Obviously, we don't know what he brings to the table. We have no idea. We may eventually find out. Or, the Rams have signed some offensive linemen in the interim while he's been out, like especially a guy like Dylan McMahon, they picked up from the Eagles practice squad, right? If I'm remembering that correctly. Mm-hmm. So who knows? A rule of mine is I don't give F grades to 7th round picks. I just don't. So I'll give it a D at this point, but he's going to have a chance to improve that. Obviously, he's got to get healthy.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And me as well. I'm definitely going to be giving him a D just because, he got injured and, a 7th round pick, but you would like to see something pop up for him in the positive, right? And it just hasn't been that way. So again, could this be a C just because it's like, hey, 7th round pick, everyone relax, I guess, but for him to not be out there, for him to have no contribution at all, I mean, that is disappointing. I think a D is appropriate here.
Well, maybe we should just go to your grade sheet here, Paul, and you can start off talking about Leviston. Let's see what Paul's grades looked like just in review. Pretty much we already talked about all these, but so Leviston, you gave him a incomplete. Go through real quickly, Paul. Any other additional comments on your grades here? You've been sharing them
Yeah,
as we go, I
the
know.
grades for verse and fisk were really, I think, a function of the scheme. Once if you factor in, finishing, I think it's, honestly, I think both of them really deserve A's because they've been playing in such a bad situation, honestly. But you know what? Both those kids are winners. Blake Corum is a winner. All these top three, I think once they get out there and they're used properly, you're really going to see what they're made of. They're just scratching the surface. And the same thing with Kinchins. The kid's a hammer. Just bottom line, you just got to use them right. And right now, it's just trying to find the right fit in their rookies and getting comfortable with their roles. So, I just think, I think it's a really, really solid draft class. And I think the future is going to be bright for all of them.
Yeah, at least I think all of these guys have room for improvement. I don't think we've seen the best of a bunch of these guys. So, I think we may look back in a couple of years and think this was a pretty darn good draft, just like the previous year. There's definitely going to be 4 or 5 guys that are going to have lasting impact on this roster. I mean, Verse, Fisk, Corum, Cardi, Whittington, and Limmer. There are 6 right there, right? 6 guys that I think we can comfortably say are going to be on this roster for the next 3 years and be important members of this team. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. It is. But gotta see the improvement though. Or
Yeah.
at least just better play from a lot of these guys.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if they make any changes between now and the Raider game. Maybe our inside reporters or our inside sources will share that over the next 10 days or so. Or maybe the Rams will keep it under wraps a little bit if they're making any significant changes. I wouldn't blame them for doing that. So, been a good roundtable, and while we've been recording this, the Dodgers look like they're about to put it away and come back to LA for a game 5, which is going to add some more stress. When will that game be? It's Wednesday. That'll be Friday night, I assume. I don't even know.
Ooh, baby. That's a good question. It will be Friday night, 5 o'clock.
Friday night. Oh, wow.
Woo, baby. That's gonna
Fun
be
stuff.
that's
And
gonna be
it
a
was
stretch.
great team contribution. They had to do a bullpen game, and look at it. They had 7 pitchers in there. That's how you do it. That's how it gets done, baby.
Yeah, and that's what we need from the
contributes.
Rams. We need team effort here to win important games going forward. We got to be in a playoff mindset as a Rams football
That's right.
organization here.
So
And,
I'm
Full
gonna
speed
be
ahead, baby. Full speed ahead.
I'm gonna be on a little road trip in LA Friday night, so I have to figure out a way of tricking my wife into, hey, let's hit this little sports bar over here. See if she can figure out what I'm doing there. Otherwise, I'm going to have to follow it on my phone, which is, it'll be okay. But
yeah, you'll be all right.
pull it up on YouTube TV on my phone without giving myself away too much. So, any final thoughts? Got 10 days before the Raiders. I'm going to be dropping a couple of pods over the next couple of days. Might be a little slow week. We'll get back next week and do a preview of the Rams Raiders game, I guess. And yeah, fun stuff. Season's not over. See if we can get a little winning streak going here. The problem is, after the Raiders game, they got the Thursday night game against the lowly Minnesota Vikings. So that could be a fun game. You remember we had that? I think it was a Thursday night game. Was it a Thursday night game, that Rams Vikings? That incredible. Everybody remembers the Rams Chiefs, but the
Yeah, I
Rams
was at that game.
Vikings.
That was
Yeah,
a great game. Jared Goff's coming out party where it was like, all right, he's pretty good. When he
Yeah,
threw
yeah.
4 touchdowns, I believe, where he was just had a perfect passer rating. He was on fire that day. I remember.
Against the Vikings.
Yeah, Kirk
So
Cousins was still there. Kirk
right.
Cousins had a good day. It was another shootout game at the Coliseum. Thursday
Right.
night football as well. I mean, NFL likes nostalgia. That's why they keep doing these matchups in the same kind of time zone. Thursday night
Yeah.
again with the Vikings. So
There was a
hopefully
play
we
in
see
that
that again.
game. There was a play in that game where it was in the right corner of the end zone where Goff threw the pass before it was either Josh Reynolds or Gerald Everett, I think. And it was one of the
Cooper Kupp,
most,
I think, in the Viking game.
was it Cooper Kupp?
Mhm.
Maybe it was. And it was one of the best thrown balls I've ever seen. And yeah, that was a good game.
Yeah, it was a good game.
Fun times. We'll get them again this time. Vikings. Bring it on. Okay. Any final thoughts, guys?
Sorry, I'm just getting notification from buddies. They're like, you didn't believe. And I was like, well, I was worried about the Dodgers.
So was
game.
I. So was I. You're talking about the Padres, I assume, the Dodgers Padres. Yeah, I had this sinking feeling the Padres were just so pumped, and that crowd they got a good crowd. They got a really good fan base here. Get a little crazy there in the Gaslamp district, but they're a dangerous team. It's going to be a interesting, fun game 5, stressful game 5, that's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And
That'd
we just
be
need the
clutch.
good energy to carry over. Carry that over to the Rams, please. Let's start winning some games out here in LA, and let's carry that good energy over. Because got to carry that villain mindset sometimes to be able to get shit done. So,
and you
And when
Dodgers fans.
That's right. And when things are going south, you got to find blocks to build upon. And the Rams got plenty of blocks to build upon. Now it's just get organized, get cohesive, come out, play consistent, get that first W, and then move on from there. One game at a time. Start stacking blocks, build to the end of the season, hopefully into the playoffs. But as for the Dodgers, Big Blue, come on, bring the thunder, baby. Let's go. One more game. Bring it home.
Okay, guys, thanks a lot. Good episode. Lots of fun out here from Rams Up.
Ramley forever, baby.
That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Our handle is at laramsup.com. Till next time, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.